Hello there everyone and welcome to a new edition of Lydia's Crafty Corner with me, Lydia, in my Crafty Corner. So today we're going to be looking at a different technique that you can actually use with your artist markers. So we're going to be trying to do a little bit of a watercolor effect, so it stretches the use of your alcohol markers even further for colouring different images in different ways. So to start with, I am going to be using the Sketchy Floral, stamp set from Altenew, and this is one of my favourites. I just love the large image on this one. But as you can see, I want to stamp over the edge of my card, and my Misty is not helping me out with this situation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little smart corner. So I've just used a piece of cardstock and cut out a rectangle from it, so I'm left with this L shape. So I can then use this to butt up my card against it, so I can then stamp over the edge. I've added a little bit of the tape pen from Altenew, and then I can stick this in position and then pop in my piece. So now you can see I can stamp over the edges quite easily without it going over the edges of my Misty. So as you can see, I have actually used this before and I have stamped out a piece of this before. So I'm just going to pop this back into the same place as I did and then add in my magnet so it doesn't move around. So I've popped it into position exactly where I want it to be. Not quite, there it is. Right, it's in the right position now. I'm going to close the door on my Misty and lift it up so my stamp is now stuck onto the lid and I can stamp. I'm going to be using the permanent black ink from Altenew. This is a permanent ink, so it can be used with our markers and also watercolors. I do recommend that you let it dry for a little bit before using any other mediums with it, because you don't want any little splodgy and splodginess going on. So I would recommend you leave it dry for like 20 minutes, or even let it dry overnight, or even you can then use a heat tool with it just to make sure it's nice and set before using your alcohol markers with it. As you can see, I didn't quite get the look I was after with the black. I wanted it a bit more darker, so I'm just going to stamp over it again. Again, I am using the permanent black ink. So I've inked it up, closed the lid, and I am happy with the effect now. So I'm then going to remove this and leave it to dry for a little while. Because I'm using the alcohol markers, I'm going to place a little bit of scrap cardstock behind me. This means when I do my marker technique, it will go onto this piece of cardstock rather than my work surface, because alcohol markers do bleed through the cardstock that you're working with, especially with this technique. I'm going to be using a number of the artist markers. I'm going to be using some purples, a blue, green and yellows for this technique. So to start with, I'm going to be starting with my lightest purple, which is the soft lilac from set B. And I'm just going to colour the place where I want my faux watercoloured look to be. So as you can see, I'm not using a flicking technique here. I am actually just using a normal colouring technique that would be used normally. So I've added the whole section that I wanted to, and now I'm adding a bit more ink. So I'm using a dabbing technique here just to put lots of ink down in the position that I do want it to be. So again, this is the soft lilac, and as you can see, I'm just adding this, and because the pens are translucent, there will be more colour here than there are on the places that I've just coloured. Once I'm happy with the amount of soft lilac I have down with all my little dibbing and dabbing, I'm then going to take the lavender fields and I'm going to just dab again into the wet that's left from the other marker. Because these do dry quickly, but because we've put lots of ink down, the paper is still wet, so the ink is able to move a lot more freely. I'm then going to add a little bit of sea glass to give it more of a watercolour effect when you do add two colours down in one piece. So again, I'm going to go back in with the soft lilac just to blend these colours all together to give me more of a watercolour look. I then decided that the sea glass was a little bit too bright, so I didn't want it to be that bright, so I've just gone over it again with the soft lilac, and it has given me a beautiful watercolour effect with a little bit of two-tone added in. I'm then going to continue to colour in the rest of my flower in this watercolour look. So again, I'm first adding down the soft lilac and then dabbing it in where I want it to have the most shade. Then using the lavender fields, again with the dabbing motion, and then adding a touch of the sea glass, but then blending this all out again with the softest of the purple colours, which is the soft lilac. The technique doesn't take too long, as you don't need to be too precise with it. It's still going to look really pretty, and I think the less concerned you are with it and the more messy and the more you just go with the flow, the more of a watercolor technique that you are going to get. So for the centers, I ended up just using one yellow and then the cotton candy. So I'm using the mango smoothie and then just dabbing a little bit of the cotton candy in the centers of the flowers, and then again blending this out with the mango smoothie. For the leaves, I'm just using two greens. I'm using the frayed leaf and then the forest glades. So as you can see, I covered the whole of the area that I want to colour with the frayed leaf, then dab in the position where I want my most shading, and then add in the forest glades. So here you can see I'm just finishing off these leaves, and you can see that I don't use too much of the forest glades. I'm just adding this a tiny bit for shadow, and there is the watercolor technique complete. As you can see, it does bleed through, so I don't recommend you using this technique on a one layer card. Maybe first do it on a panel like I have here and then stick it down onto your card base. I'm sticking mine onto my card base using some of my favourite Altenew glue. You know that I love this because I keep going on about it, and I am sorry, but it is amazing glue. So I'm just using that one to pop it down onto my card base. To finish, I have stamped and embossed the sentiment onto a black strip. I've used the pure white Altenew embossing powder, and I'm just lining this up with a ruler to make sure it's nice and straight. And there is the card complete. I did in fact use a little, some little dots of little water droplets to finish it off in the end, just to add a little bit of interest, but that was about it. So I really hope that you do like this technique and that you do give it a try. I would really love to see what you come up with. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really do hope you've enjoyed it. And if you would like to watch any more videos, we have a couple of here that you maybe like to watch. If you don't want to miss out on any videos, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.